Hey folks, welcome to the Pinstripers podcast, a podcast about pinstripers hosted by two pinstripers. I am your host, Freddie Villa, and Jack Fleming could not attend the interview today because he had some very important matters to attend to. He does send his love and regards to everybody. He will be back on the next one. Today we're going to interview the great Andy Cappuccio. And again, I'm going to ask, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce his name, nickname Pooch. I did want to bring up, we're also looking for individual sponsors. If you were to sponsor an episode, you would get a shout out. We could shout out your company. We could shout out your friends. We could shout out your family. We could start a fight for you, whatever it is you want. We're asking for a minimum of $50 now. And you can give us as much money as you want because it would help us out tremendously. And without further ado, by the way, big shout out to our friend Alicia at cherrybomb_pinstriping on Instagram for also helping us out with the new Instagram page, Pinstripers Podcast on Instagram. So look us up, say hello, let us know if you have any suggestions. We've gotten many suggestions, and we're writing them all down, and we really appreciate the feedback, and we really appreciate y'all listening. So without further ado, here is Pooch.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. How about you today?
Not too bad. I just got off work a few hours ago, so I'm pushing on.
Oh, my God. Have a cup of coffee, man.
Oh, I've had plenty of coffee. I'm concerned about having more coffee. There's a limit, there's like a fine line.
I know. 2 for me in the morning. That's it. Then I start shaking. So
yeah. Well, I've been working nights for a while now, and it's something else. It's definitely a challenge within itself just to be awake. I go in at 9. Well, supposed to go in at 9 p.m. I get out about 5 a.m. So it's
wow.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's where I got a chance to move up within the company.
Well, good. Good for you, man.
Yeah, thank you. So I did want to let you know, first off, welcome to the podcast. We're already rolling. We're excited to have you, and I'm saying we in the sense of me and Jack, but Jack is unable to make it today.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he had some very important matters that he had to attend to. Of course, he feels bad, but he really did have some important stuff that he had to do. So, but it's just going to be me and you. I think it might make it a little bit easier because sometimes we have a hard time gauging who's going to say what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You guys do a great job. It always works out.
Well, we try. We're looking to find a way to where at least maybe me and him can have visual cues. So we're thinking of maybe throwing up laptops for just me and him, right? Because we don't want to overcomplicate things for the guest.
Right.
That's why we go with the three-way call. So we're trying to think of maybe if we could have a computer to where we can like maybe raise our hand,
Right.
Like I got next, or maybe I don't have nothing.
My turn.
Yeah. Because sometimes we both got, we're both jumping at, like we both have something, that we want to try to touch on. But anyways, enough about us, Andy. So first off, let me know, please, how do you pronounce your name correctly so I didn't botch it?
My last name is Cappuccio.
That was my assumption. And my other assumption is that's where the nickname came from, Pooch?
Yeah, when I was a freshman in high school, we had a really cool a homeroom teacher, and he started calling me Cappuccio.
Oh, nice.
And by the end of the season, it was Pooch. And then that was it, man.
Yeah, forever Pooch.
Forever Pooch.
Well, that's cool. And so do you consider yourself more a pinstriper or a sign painter, or what do you consider yourself first and foremost?
Well, that's a tough one because I do lettering and pinstriping together all the time. Yes. All the trucks I letter, they're all pinstriped. Everything gets pinstriped.
Yes.
As part of the routine. So it's hard to say. But the thing is, the first thing I learned when I was 16 years old, I started with pinstriping. So that's my true love lives in pinstriping.
And so since you brought it all the way back, how did that come about? Where did you maybe first start to see pinstriping, and how did the influence first start off with you?
Well, I started going to the drag strip when I was 14 years old, and so I'm seeing all these beautiful cars, lettering, pinstriping, and was really interested in it. When I was 16, I worked at a hamburger place, and of course, when you're 16 and the guys are 18 and 20, they're the old guys. So they didn't pay any attention to the 16-year-old kid much. Yeah. Until one day I was outside doing cartoons of their cars, and it was a car club. And they took me into the club.
Nice.
The kid.
Nice.
And one day, they're going, man, you should learn how to pinstripe. And the next day, one of the guys showed up with a Mac Green and said, here, you got to learn how to do this. But back then, nobody would teach, wouldn't share any of their skills. But everybody was going to this guy, Mr. J.
Nice.
To get lettering, because back then all the cars had names on them. This was the mid to late 60s. And so I went along to have his car done, and I mentioned to him that, boy, I'd love to learn pinstriping. And he goes, come to my shop every Saturday for the summer. It was a very rare, he's a very rare person to do something like that and share his knowledge in that time. And he's done it for quite a few people back then. And I swept the floors, hung over his shoulder, practiced on the side. And so my style in the beginning looked just like Mr. J's, because that's who I learned from.
Nice.
And that's how that got started.
And Mr. J, we're talking about Julian, correct?
Yeah, Big Julian Bray.
Julian Bray. And that's the person that has the Excalibur brush, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes,
oh,
it
that's
is.
awesome. That's awesome.
Like when those Excalibur brushes, when he designed them, he handed out to quite a few of us, Mike Frederick, me, Glenn, a whole bunch of other people, just gave us a couple to play with, give any information that we could give him, good, bad, and so that's how his thing got started.
And is that, am I right in saying that that's one of the first kind of custom brushes?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's one of my favorites. I do most of my design stuff with scrollers. And,
yes.
And if I go to do a design, where I'm fooling around with the sword, I really enjoy that Excalibur. I like the shorter hairs. I like I think it's got less of a belly. I feel like it's got less of a belly. It fits good in my hand. I got small hands, and I don't know if that's got anything to do with anything, to be honest. But I really do enjoy his brush. It's interesting. That's somebody else that we eventually do want to get him on the podcast as well.
Oh, you should. Yeah, absolutely should. And you'll have a good time because he's got a great sense of humor.
Oh, I'm sure. Most people that we've spoken to, Andy's been wonderful. And I think everybody kind of seems to have the same kind of similar stories. I feel like you're probably one of the first few people that actually got somebody to show them early on.
But back then, even if you learn from somebody, there was no such thing as do 1,000 straight lines. We just started doing designs.
Yeah.
Started painting. Now, I think that's a great idea that people are training doing that straight work. So it's very important, absolutely, to learn control of your brush and universe. The lettering all is tight. Have to excuse me a little bit. I have a mild aphasia, so I get words wrong sometimes. But sometimes they're pretty funny what I say. So,
listen,
feel free to laugh. It's okay.
I'm the type of person that says the wrong word on purpose just because I think it's silly and it makes me laugh.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'll start telling people. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Well, I'll tell you a quick one. When people tell me that they're from Ohio, I think it's funny as hell, but it's just me. They just look at me funny, right? They'll tell me, "Hey, I'm from Ohio," so I'll say, "Oh, you're from Idaho, the cheese state," and they're like, "No, Ohio." I know Wisconsin's the cheese state. And I know Idaho is known for its potatoes. So I'll tell them, "Oh, you're from Idaho, the cheese state." But it's
So you know your geology.
well, I don't. I just know. You know what? I know stupid things that I know from TV because I actually don't know where any of them states are. Just I've watched too much TV is what it was. So I knew about the cheese heads, and I knew about Idaho potatoes because marketing. But that's great. Do you work out of a shop now, or do you work out of your vehicle? Do you normally go out to jobs?
Yeah, I travel. I go to their places. I have a small art studio at my home where I am right now, and I'll bring in some small jobs once in a while, like motorcycles and parts and things like that. But other than that, no, I'm on the road. I'm on the road.
And do you feel like at one point did you ever think that you wanted to have like a place for people to come bring the stuff to you, or was that ever an option for you?
I had two different shops for 30 years.
Oh, wow. So you did it.
I did it. And then we moved out to this farm out in Pennsylvania. The last two places I lived actually had buildings to use as shops on the farm. This did not. So I had to change everything and become a full-time traveling painter. In a way, I like this better. When I had the shop at home, people knew I lived at the end of the driveway. And people would come knocking on the door on Sundays at night. And it was a pain in the ass in plain English. So once I got used to being on the road, it was like, if I get home at 3:00, I'm done. Nobody's coming here to talk to me, bother me about anything.
Yeah, it's really important to have your sanctuary, right?
Yes. So now that I've been doing this for 25 years on the road, I actually like that much better.
Nice. And did you ever have, or do you still, or ever did car shows and motorcycle shows, or has it mostly been person to person?
25 years ago, I did a lot of show work, but then I started realizing that I've got a hot rod, and I work on hot rods all the time. So when I go to a car show, I want to walk around and look at the cars, get ideas, talk to people. So that's what I do now. I don't work at the shows, but I go to the shows and the cruise nights, hand out a lot of cards, talk to people. When people look at my hot rod, they go, "Who did this? I did. Who did this? I did." So then it's a rolling portfolio for me.
Yeah, that's good. I got to get a cool car, man. I had a Chevelle. It was one of my first vehicles that actually got me out of town because I ran through a few different little crappy cars that never really moved. And I had a Chevelle. I had a 4-door Chevelle. It was a lot of fun, and it kind of opened my eyes to that culture, of hot rods and stuff. And I've always loved cars, but unfortunately, Andy, I brought the stuff to like the local car show. I brought my car to the local car show, and I tried to speak and conversate with the people here locally, and they kind of gave me the cold shoulder. It was a little odd, to be honest.
Wow, that's very strange to hear that.
Yeah, I think the guys that do the shows here in town, I feel like it's always the same exact guys.
Now you got to get out of town.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Get out of town, man.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
I don't go to any cruise nights in my town because everybody knows me.
Yeah.
So I pick cruise nights up to an hour away because that's about the max that I'll travel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do. I go to them in North Jersey, Pennsylvania, around here, and most of the time I go for about, they're usually about 3 hours long. I'll stay about an hour and a half. Walk around, talk to people, hang out to the car for a while. Then I go. And people ask, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, it's a cruise night, right? I'm going cruising."
Oh yeah. Well, what are you driving? What's the? Do you have an array of them, or is it a couple of them, or one?
No, I got a '56 Chevy that is quite radical.
Nice.
I've had it for 25 years. I've been through 26 years. I've been through 5 paint jobs. I get bored. If it gets a little chick on it, a tip or something, I pinstripe that area, I pinstripe the other side. Looks like it's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
When there's too much pinstriping, it's time for a new paint job.
Yeah, when it's overdone.
Right. But it just, the motor's really wild. It's, got a full flame job. All the windows are engraved. A little bit of everything is on there.
Nice. I got a Mercury Grand Marquis. I basically got the land yacht, what used to be the police officer cars, basically. And I want to pinstripe it, but it almost feels like it wouldn't look right on that car. I know I will eventually get something on there, but I still got to wrap my mind around how I want to do it.
Something that big of a car would make a perfect lowrider.
Yes, for sure. I have seen that. Many times where it's it's all the patterns and all that, and I don't know how to spray anything. All I know is pinstriping, and
but that's all you need to do, man. Running long silver leaf lines down the side, doing your scrolls with a lot of leaf work and color. I mean, you don't have to have the car drop to the ground. Just do a lowrider paint job on there. Then you hit the car shows. Now they're looking over. Who did your striping? Who did that? And there's your in with the people.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm just, and now touching on the leaf. I'm just now getting into leaf.
Yeah, you got it, brother.
It is so damn addicting.
I know.
It is so damn addicting. I mean, the moment I put the size down and got some leaf on something, and of course it sunk in, right? Because I don't know, dry times. It completely sunk in, and it was just dull. Then it's like the process of trying to make it shinier, right?
Yes.
And you're always, and of course you jumped in, which I do appreciate it. You jumped in and sent me some tips and some information, and you immediately were like, "Hey, call me," which I appreciate that.
That's what it's all about.
And but yeah, it's just now it's like now you're trying to make it more perfect. And there's another fellow that I follow on Instagram that I used to give him tips on pinstriping designs. Fellow by the name of Coffin Garage. I don't really know his actual name at the moment, but he's the way he buffs his leaf and all that. It's mirror image damn near every time. And you watch this stuff. It's like, oh my god! It's like they're chasing this perfection. It's wild.
Well, when you're working with the synthetic leaves like aluminum, variegated, they're a heavy finish to them. So I polish before I twist them. I use cotton, and I just keep running and polishing them. It brings up the shine, and then go in and do my twisting.
And when did leaf come about? Did leaf come about in your journey before the lettering or after the lettering?
At that time, because when I was learning lettering, I was also again watching Mr. J and watching him. Back in the late 60s, in the 60s, early 70s, variegated leaf was used on everything: race cars, street machines. So it all started at that time right away. So I had been pinstriping for lettering also for quite a few years. So I had I was able to handle the brush and move it around real well, but I had no training in lettering. And boy, lettering is a whole new world other than pinstriping.
I am finding that out slowly. I do need to get a hold of some literature on the subject. Luckily, there is the groups, right?
Yes.
The Sign Painters Support Group is one of them, which I dare not post any of my stuff onto. Because those guys are serious, boy. Those guys are super serious. But I get it. It was at one point, right, a profession that was learned. Trade, correct? Where people would Would you get taught that stuff as a trade, I believe?
Yeah. Well, I went to a sign school, the Bloomfield School of Signcraft, and I went there for a year and to learn proper construction, layout. Fortunately for me, like I said, I already knew how to handle the brush. I wasn't lettering well, but I knew how to handle the brush. So every week we'd work on, we didn't call them fonts, it was an alphabet. And every week we learned a different alphabet. And then our homework for the week was to practice those letters and bring them in. Well, I was already starting my business working, so I would take pictures of jobs, and each week that would be the only font that I would use. And that's how I practiced. So everybody's bringing in paper with lettering on it, and I was bringing in photographs of jobs, and the teachers goes, "You're getting paid for this?" Yes, I am. That's how I practice.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I guess you were a little bit ahead of the curve, right, with everything.
Yes, I was fortunate for that.
Yeah, that's great. I felt, brush control. I think brush control, understanding what a brush can do, in the end, alongside with the paint, right? Because it's all intermingled. That's like probably one of the first elements, right? Then everything else kind of falls into place.
Absolutely. And a good friend of mine, Jeff Cahill, told me the way he put it was, he goes, every letter should look like, think of it as a house. Is it solid, or does it look like it's falling over? So even if it's an angled letter, it still should look solid, like it's really planted in the ground. And I've lived with that for all that time. I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, that is good to, it's something to envision, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I've tried my hand so far with a little bit of casual. I got a couple of pieces of paper here that I'm staring at with some casual, a little bit of script, and I understand block lettering is one of the things you should learn first.
Absolutely.
And is there any recommendations as to literature that somebody should pick up to learn that stuff?
Oh man, there's quite a few books on lettering out there. Really can't think of one offhand, but the main thing with you're learning a single stroke letter. So everything's the same letter, same thickness.
Okay.
That's what you have to learn first, and know that alphabet down. Like certain things, like certain letters will fit right in blocks. Other ones the same size. Like if they're all the same size block, all your square letters will fit in there, like T's, E's, F's. But circular, round letters like a C and O, they all have to go slightly outside the line on all sides. The reason is if you made that S or that O the exact same size as all the rest of the letters, visually it will look smaller, even though it's the same size. So it's an illusion that you're putting into it by going a little bigger with those letters.
I did not know that. That's good information.
Right. And then what happens is then you say, okay, I know the single stroke now. We'll learn thick and thin. And then from there, you can start going to serifs, point, round, all these different things. But you have to have that construction of those basic letters, learning how to angle them, everything. Strict script lettering, I thought that was the hardest thing to learn. But again, I was taught by a good friend of mine. And the nice thing about script is that really ties in with our pinstriping.
Yes. And I feel like you got a little bit more wiggle room.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like in watching some folks that I see, like my buddy Anthony Monaco, he will elongate certain letters in random positions.
Right.
But it still looks cool. It fits.
It still has to look right. That's the bottom line.
Yes, yes. And I was also looking at some stuff that Bob Honig
Yes.
posts some stuff. I love his stuff too. We're gonna get him on probably next.
Oh, you should. Excellent.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, we all met, right? We all met at the Butler thing.
Right. I've been following him forever, so that was the first time I met him, which was really great.
Yeah, he was super super cool. You know, it's funny. It's funny looking back because I don't really, I'm just a guy. I just like to I call it just doodling, right? What I do. And I was fortunate enough to get the phone call, and my mind was blown, right? I'm thinking, why is Steve calling me? So I end up over there, and I'm having breakfast with Bob and Hetz and Paul Quinn and you guys and whoever was up there, and I don't fully understand the grasp of the giants that I'm sitting with, and it's just now that I'm like, oh crap. I wonder how many times I stuck my damn foot in my mouth while I was sitting there.
I don't think you did, man. I didn't remember that you doing anything like that.
Well, you never know. But yeah, I like some of the stuff that he does, and I noticed on some of the lettering, like some of the words, maybe a letter would be bigger, as to be able to see it from a further distance. Like if it is painting, maybe the P and the T and the G or something, would be a more elaborate thing. That way, it kind of at a distance can be still read well.
Right. You got to consider what it's used for. Mostly like all the truck lettering I do is real fancy, airbrush, leaf work, and everything. They want artwork. Most of the big rigs, they honestly don't care if you can see their name or not. They want artwork. When I do a lot of tow trucks, then the company name has to be very visible, be able to read. Other than that, like they'll say, here's that, go for it, goodbye, call me when it's done.
Nice. And from start to finish, roundabout, how long does that take you?
Well, a big truck like a heavy, the real big rigs, that would be 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
I'm doing it alone, man. So even the first day might take an hour and a half to prep the whole thing. The last one I did was 40 feet long. Wow. And it was all white. So you walk into this 40-foot white thing and go, oh boy. Yeah. So then I just start. The first thing I always do is get the company name on there. Get that on there and done. Because then I feel like I've accomplished something and now I can get going on it.
And when you go in, are you eyeballing it, already envisioning certain things, certain spots?
As soon as I walk in the door.
Yeah.
As soon as I walk in the door, I'm seeing stuff.
Yeah. Your mind's already rolling. Yeah, I can imagine. And for me, a white background is the hardest. For me, I have the hardest time with a white background.
Why is that? Do you know why?
My guess is because it's already taking up all your vision. It's already absorbing all the light.
Right.
So to get something to pop off of white, I have a hard time, especially with pinstriping, because it's a small line.
Yes.
So how do you tackle getting something to pop off of white? Do you have any suggestions on stuff like that?
Well, I work with bold outlines around letters, like, any dark, black, dark purples, anything. Depends on the color, the design that you're putting together. But you need a heavy, bold, and background, especially around that main copy that you're putting on. And then from there, then you can start building and saying, okay, I'll try to use most of the colors that I do in the lettering, use that in my pinstriping, so it ties everything together. So the main letter would be very bold, pushing out there. Some letters, it's like the towns, or they're not that important. That could be a nice thin script bouncing on there. Phone number is important and not. I tell people that too. It doesn't have to be huge. Nobody's going to remember your phone number. They're going to remember your name. And this time in life, you can see, Pooch's lettering, and then you can look it up.
Yeah.
But you're not going to remember my phone number.
No. No, yeah, that time is gone, right? Even a lot of my family members, I don't know any of their phone numbers offhand.
Oh, I don't either. I have to look everything up.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny to think of the phone numbers that I can remember. They have no meaning. Like, I know the phone number to the pizza place down the road.
Well, that is important. That is important. Come on now.
We used to go there so damn often that they didn't even ask me for my name. At one point, they would just point at me and be like, okay. And they go get my pizzas. So I know that number. There's some girl from way back in the day that I used to speak to in middle school, and for some odd reason, I remember her phone number. And yeah, that's weird, right?
Well, she meant something to you somehow.
I guess so.
Back then,
Yeah, that number's stuck in my head forever. I do remember she used to like call, just playing around. It was never nothing malicious, just kids being kids.
Right.
And I remember my mother just being like, if this girl calls one more time, my mother got super angry about it. But yeah, that's it's interesting how that stuff works. And so you go to them. Generally, do they have? Is it like the same people that you're working for usually?
I have a large group of people that I do constantly. They are definitely clients. I like the idea of going to a place that I've never been to before because I have no idea what I'm walking into, and that's kind of interesting. People call me up and tell me I have blah blah blue green, and this is on my truck, and I don't know what that is because somebody gets paid to make up the names of these colors.
Oh yeah.
I just say, look, I got like 50 colors in my truck. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out when I get there. I'll walk you through it. That's my job.
And do you ever find yourself in a situation to where the customer's more difficult for whatever reason? Like,
not anymore. When in the beginning, yeah, not anymore.
Do you suppose that's because you learned how to navigate it a little better?
Well, yeah, that's a definite. Plus, the reputation after doing it for so many years, they'll listen to what I have to say. If somebody, and I tell people, I don't have to like what you like to do your job.
Yeah.
But I'll tell them, if you have a job, an idea that I think's really bad and I can't change it, then I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And they go, why? I said, well, my name's connected to this. I can't do that. Or sometimes I'll do a job that their idea is okay. I'll do it. I'll let it go. It still looks kind of nice, but I tell them, but I'm not going to put my name on it. Then they get real upset. Okay, well, what would you do? What do you want to put on there?
That's actually a pretty good idea. I never really would have considered just being like, look, I'll do it, but I'm not putting my name on it.
It's a nice way to threat them.
Yeah. It's to say, okay, I got you. I'll do it. I still run into a lot of difficult situations because I've not been into so many of them. A lot of the art that I do is just art for me. I get to just sit here and do it. I have a full-time job, so I'm not able to paint all the time. So when I do it, I try to do it as an enjoyment, and something where I can advance in my own little world. And there's nobody waiting on it generally. So when I do have customers, I'm still navigating these deep waters.
Right.
It's still hard for me to price. It's still hard for me to say no. It's still hard for me to have these boundaries because I want to please them, right? I want them to be happy. but at the same time, sometimes they don't know what they want.
Right. Well, you have to spend time with them. A new customer, you have to spend time with them. It's really important. And even colors, if they can't decide, I'll put color. I'd say, look, I'm going to make some lines right on your car. It wipes off. Because they can't, I could say, well, use this, this, and this, but you and I can visualize this. The customer can't. So you got to help them out there with that.
Yeah, I've had moments where people were, looking at this stuff midway through, and I know what it's going to look like at the end.
Right.
And they're like, they're holding their chin, and they're kind of like, yeah, well, it's like, give me a moment, give me an hour, come back, and then let me know what you think,
It's not done yet.
Yeah, and there's definitely ugly stages if you're doing something elaborate. There's definitely ugly stages in between.
I kick the people out sometimes. Get out of my shop, leave me alone. I said, today, this is my truck and my shop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good information. I'm still learning, man. I'm still learning,
I think the people that I consider, I'm going to say, give me a hard time, but that's not the right way to describe it. I have people that know what they want, and they're very specific about it. And it's not giving me a hard time. They know what they want. And in a way, that's good too. So, you got to learn how to get through that too. I want this. Now, they're not telling you how to do your job, but they might say, I want this color and I want this here, this there. And, but that's the biggest thing that I get anymore that I consider giving me a hard time, which it really isn't anyway. But it all comes with time. I've been doing this for 57 years. So, and I'm still learning.
That's the way we got to be, right? And keep the mindset of a student, right?
Absolutely. We learn that in martial arts too. You're always the student, never the master. And a good teacher and friend of mine, he should be considered a master in his martial art. But he said, do not call me that. I will not be a master until I'm dead. Because that means I can't learn anything more. So I've mastered as much as I possibly could. And I think that's a pretty good concept to work by.
Yeah, for sure. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, what is the martial art? I meant to ask that.
That's called Bagwazhang. It's a Chinese art. And that particular one is it's all moving in circles.
Okay.
Very powerful because you can work into a group of people and you learn how to turn and twist through people, get around and get to the next person behind them. And it gets people confused too because you're constantly moving. You're never stopping. And so it's all open hand striking. There's no punching in that. The other arts, I studied Tai Chi Chuan. And I did over 20 years in Okinawan karate. And you know what? They're all a martial art. There's so many ways to punch, kick, whatever it is. There's only so many ways that your joints can bend to control somebody. So I just always enjoyed it. I'm not a fighter. Martial arts, you should be taught how to not fight, how to walk out of it, get away from it. Only use it if it's your last resort.
Yeah, I when I was a kid, I took a little Taekwondo. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I think I took a couple of years, and that is the very first thing they show you, right? They say just avoid the fight because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I specialized with my teacher. I specialized in sword work and knives. And my students would say, well, what if somebody pulled a knife on you? You know know how to use knives. Somebody pulls a knife on you. What are you going to do? So I throw my money on the floor and I run.
Yeah.
I go, what are you doing? I said, if you get in a knife fight, you're getting cut no matter how good you are. I said, well, I'm running down the street. I'm not getting cut. He's calling me names, but I'm still running and not getting cut. So
Yeah, there's I know a lot of people that look for fights. I know folks that they know how to fight, and they say they don't look for fights, but every now and then you hear them talking. Oh, I almost got into this fight. This dude bumped into me, and he was pissing me off. It's like, man, just let it go, because you don't know how far that could escalate. Yeah, you could probably beat him up, or he beat you up, or whatever, but you don't know if that person's going to walk out, go get their pistol, and escalate it to even something higher, because violence begets violence, right?
Exactly. And at the end of the fight, nobody won.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'm in the same mindset. I'm not. I've probably been. I've heard worse from Mom probably than anybody else.
But I tell you what, the stances of the martial arts have helped me immensely in my pinstriping work. I never have a sore back from leaning over or anything like that. The breathing techniques that I learned from martial arts, I use that in my artwork. So it's art. Martial arts says art, because art means to create something from nothing, to create it, to advance on it, make it run better. So in martial arts, we learn the basics. There's never anything beyond the basics. It's just advanced. It's just cleaning it up, making it everything tighter, getting better at. Well, what do we do with pinstriping? We keep practicing, getting better. We never get away from the basics. They never stop.
And that is interesting to hear, because usually the first thing to go out, the first problem, from what I understand, on a pinstriper is their back.
Yes,
I know of so many people that have back problems. I think even Hot Rod Jen, as slim and as small a person as she is, I believe she battles also with back problems.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I did a long time ago, but these what's the word I was going for? Stances.
The stances. Yes.
Stances are so important, but they teach you which way to bend over, what to do, work in the most efficient way without hurting yourself. And actually, for many years, I thought about, boy, this would be a great workshop for pinstripers and letterers on just learning these stances. They'll help you out in doing your work and get rid of any pain you're getting.
I think that would be a good workshop. I think that would be helpful.
We'll see.
Yes.
Something to think about. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever taught any classes, Andy?
In what per se?
In pinstriping or lettering, have you ever had a chance to do classes?
Yeah, I've had people come here privately too for lessons. I'll give you a fun story. Back in 1985, Mr. J put together an international letterhead meet, and I was part of the group involved in that. And there was about 300 people in the group, and they were going to. Mr. J was going to be the MJ speaker, and Glenn was going to do the airbrush work. So Glenn came up to me, and goes, "Do this with me. I don't want to do just one. Two of us will get up there." Well, I just met Glenn not long before that, and Jay's close friends with Glenn and close friends with me. Mm-hmm. So that was it. We're doing stuff, and you know how Jay is. He's busting our chops, making people laugh. We're trying to do airbrush work, and we're laughing and screwing things up, and we had a great time.
Nice. And where was that at?
That was in Palisades, in New Jersey.
And where are you located at? I meant to ask that early on, but
I'm in Swiftwater, Pennsylvania.
Swiftwater. And is that a large city or is that a smaller town?
Oh, it's a little tiny town.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody knows everybody in town.
Yeah, I know that's something that Jack likes to ask people, especially folks that have been professionally painting the way you do. I think sometimes there's like a misconception that you have to live in a big booming city to be able to make it.
Well, I travel, like we have 38 acres of property here.
Nice.
The house was built in 1791. So we like being in the woods, but I traveled up to an hour. So I'm traveling out to Wilkes-Barre or Scranton, which are bigger cities. Mm-hmm. So that's where the work is.
Okay.
But when I go over the bridge over the stream to get up to my property, I'm like, oh God, I'm home.
Yeah, we're in a pretty small town here. It's growing. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of warehouses pop up. Amazon was like one of the first ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I work in a grocery warehouse, which it's grocery warehouses. So they're a given. But once Amazon came on the scene, it seems to have just blown up.
Oh God, they're huge.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's endless. What used to be around here, Andy, was a bunch of orange groves when we first moved here to Plant City. It's near Tampa, Florida. It was a lot of orange groves, and at some point, I think the med fly came. There was a fly that eradicated a decent amount of the trees, and then I think some sort of other cancer or something came through, and there's basically no more orange trees here. It's now it's nothing but a bunch of Amazons. But we're seeing our small town become a little bit more populated. But it is what it is.
And you might get more work out of it. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm it comes in waves. It's weird. Sometimes I got a lot of people, giving me phone calls or, trying to send me stuff from out of state. I get a lot of inquiries from out of state because of my online presence or whatever. So I'm trying hard to get a little bit more clientele locally, but it's slow going. I figure the more I push a thing that I want, like the less it happens, and the more organically I let things grow, the better the outcome is so far.
I really advise you doing your car up.
Okay, I think.
And when you go to the supermarket, people see it. Hey, who did that? Here's my card.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like I was just at a car show on Sunday, and I don't know, about 50 cards went out. If 3 call back, that's good. You never know. And then I met a client was right next to me, and he goes, "Did you ever hear of Glenn? Yeah. Did you ever hear of Bert? Yeah. Ever hear of this guy? Yeah. Did you ever hear of Pooch?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." He goes, "Oh my God, you pinstriped my bug shield 30 years ago," and he just called me up. He wants to get his hot rod striped now.
Oh, awesome! That's cool, man.
Another guy walked up to me and he goes, 30 years ago, you used to letter all my father's Peterbilts in his group. And I want my truck done.
Nice.
So, you start meeting people, they'll come up to you and approach you because they want to look at your artwork, even if it's in ShopRite parking lot.
Well, all right. I'm gonna take your advice, and when my car gets out of the shop because the damn transmission went out, I'll put that wheel, because I bought this wheel to take off the vinyl stuff. It's got a couple of vinyl stripes.
Yeah, they got to go.
Yeah, I got to get them out of there. It's and I'll do something. I even considered, because I did consider it at one point, but I even considered kind of like that line that drops the way a Buick. Mm-hmm. Buicks have that nice line that kind of about halfway through the back door kind of drops down and comes back up, and maybe put a little scroll right there at the meeting point or something like that.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on it.
Just do it.
I'm waiting on the car. It's I was driving to do some side work because I'm a sound. I went to school for sound engineering, which is one of the reasons I'm able to do this podcast. Jack came up with the idea, and I kind of said, "Let's do it," and he was like, "Okay." But I went to go do some side work, and I gave the car some gas, and it just went woo. I said, "What the hell?" And I went to give it gas again, and just woo. I said, "Whoa, that is weird." So then it kind of shuddered a little bit and got into gear, and I said, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it's I took it in, and they said, "Yeah, it's gonna need a rebuild." So. But it's a good car. I really love it. I'm surprised at how much I love that damn car. For being just a plain Jane Mercury, it's kind of I really do enjoy it. It's strange.
Well, now it's going to become a lowrider.
Yeah, I'll throw some stuff on there, man. We'll make it happen. I did want to ask, since I'm going to be, because I do want to do some Leaf, and it is a silver car, so it'll probably be silver Leaf. Would there be anything other than cleaning? Should I scuff where I'm going to Leaf? Because it's already got the clear coat and all that on there.
No, you don't have to do anything to it. Let me tell you, size, gold size is a very strong tack to it, to the surface. Like if you're removing lettering or even leaf work from a car, you'll have all the colors off and everything, and you'll still have size sitting on there. It's the hardest thing to get off.
Huh.
So
and
you don't. Go ahead.
What size do you use? What size do you? We generally don't like to ask these questions because we don't like to be like product heavy.
Yeah.
But I am curious. What is the product that you use?
I use Dux.
Okay.
US.
Okay.
I've also used One Shot.
Okay.
It's a little thicker. I really like the Dux clearing. The sizing.
Have you ever used LA? I got some of the LA stuff here.
No, I have not.
Okay. I do hear a lot of good things. I hear a lot of folks use Dux. And am I correct I'm going to go ahead and start asking you technical questions. Am I correct that you want to lay the size as thin as possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Doesn't have to be thick at all. All it's giving you is the glue for your leaf to stick to. So, and if it's too thick, it's going to take a long time to dry. And most of this stuff are less lettering paints too. They're drying from the surface down.
Yes.
So when it feels dry on the top, so it's tack free, but it's still soft underneath. So that sizing might feel good to you. Then you go to twist it, and you go right through the leaf into the glue because the glue is so thick.
Yeah, I have had that happen a few times.
So you have to be careful because what'll happen too, you don't want to have it puddle up or anything because that same thing's going to happen. Everything else will be ready, and that puddle is wet there yet.
Yeah, I tend to have that issue on the edge of the tape.
Right. So go back, and as you're putting the sizing down, go back again and hit those edges to knock it down. Don't load your brush up to put it on either. Run it on, put it on a little thinner, take a little longer.
Yeah. Take your time. Yeah, and the stuff that you use, is it the slow drying, or do you generally use the fast drying stuff?
I use the fast because I'm usually at a job, and what I'll do is I'll give you an example. If I'm doing a fire truck, I'll letter the first side, first door, and start lettering from the bottom to the top. Because what happens is those first two letters, they're going to be dry before anything.
Okay.
And you put your leaf on that, and even if you just put it on there to leave it on there, something's going to fall off, black down, and hit the wetter sizing.
Uh-huh.
So work from the bottom up.
Okay.
So I do that one side, and then I get rid of that size. Make just a little bit up. And wait about 20 minutes, make a fresh batch up, and go to the other side and do it. Now, the reason I change up is that the sizing for that first door, that's already tacking up.
Yeah.
So you don't want both doors to be ready to go at the same time. Or how are you going to get it all on there? And especially with gold, you want to try to get your gold leaf until it's almost too late. And then you're going to get the best shine out of it.
Yeah.
So you got to stay on it. You got to be right there.
It's such a gamble, right? Because you're like, too soon it won't be brilliant. Too late it won't stick.
Well, the only way to learn is to do it.
Yeah. And do you do test spots?
Yeah, I do. The first letter, I put a little bit off to the side on the surface.
Okay. Right
there, because it wipes right off with a reducer later on, or wax or grease remover.
And is that what you do? Because somebody showed me. Well, actually, it was a fellow by the name of Dave Letterfly, locally. He had a little class, and he let me attend. And he showed me the squeak test. Right, you rub the back of your back of your knuckle to hear that.
Yeah, use that, or I have hairy knuckles, so I can just see if the hair still sticks to it. No good yet. Not ready yet. Yeah,
I gotta grow some hair on my knuckles, man.
There you go. My wife tells me I'm a gorilla. Anyway, what was I going to say? We were talking about leaf.
I know you said.
Oh, so you know that when we're doing synthetic, like imitation gold, or I'm sorry,
variegated,
or copper leaf that's thicker. Now you got to be careful about that squeak, because you want that to be a little bit tacky when you put it down.
Mm. And how often is your jobs entail real gold? I mean, do people really like say, hey, look, I want real gold, or do they not know the difference, or is that kind of up to you?
It's up to me. I'm on a kick with aluminum lately. Hot Rod Jen sent me a couple of those spinets to use.
Nice.
And then using 3,000 to 5,000 grit to cut the aluminum is the spin is incredible. You can't get that spin out of velvet.
And that's what you were using before, was velvet?
I was using velvet. Yeah. And I thought it looked great.
Yeah.
Until I started seeing what everybody else was doing. Like, oh my God, how are they doing that?
Yeah.
So I found out. Jen said, I'm going to send you some pieces. And she did, which was wonderful of her.
Oh, yes.
So I think for the custom work, aluminum works a lot better, in my opinion, because it's very brilliant. I got to change that. It depends on, do you want it mild or wild? That's always my ask with customers. I said, there's no in between. It's mild or wild, nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
So, but with the aluminum, you can put candy colors on that and they just kick like crazy. But you can do that on copper. I've already done candy orange over copper. It's beautiful.
And that's involving an airbrush, correct?
Yes.
Which I've touched one once, and let me tell you, was that an awkward feeling? The over, you got to hold it a certain way, and you tug with your index finger. Like, it just felt extremely odd.
Well, you're learning how to use a new tool.
Yes.
Once you get comfortable with the machine, then all of your other background comes into play.
Yeah.
So really, it's just a matter of trying out a new brush or anything. So it's learning how to concentrate and learn that hand with that tool.
Yeah, I'm slow at. I was really hyper focused on pinstriping, and I really enjoyed it. And then I got my hands on some leaves, and I started getting a little hyper focused on that. And then I had people asking me for names, which was natural, right? Hey, could you put Sally on this?
Sure.
And I kept having to decline. Like, I don't want to do a bad job because I don't know what I'm doing. I said, I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure you can do it. But they really don't understand. If you don't know lettering, you don't know lettering.
Right.
So, I started practicing a little, and I'm still, clearly in the extreme early stages of it. But now I'm hyper focused on that. So I think, over time, maybe in another 10 years, I'll get hyper focused on airbrush.
Well, you never know when it's going to happen. the thing is, once, and you're doing that the right way, concentrate on this, get it to a point where you're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could start using it for jobs. Just get comfortable with, do little things with small highlights and shadows. That's it. You don't have to do a mural or something,
Yeah.
Because once you're comfortable with it, then you can start combining different things together, different media together.
Yeah. It's been this whole thing has been really surprising to me, the amount of camaraderie that everybody has, the community that's involved, and what really blows my mind is how much the general public still doesn't know about pinstriping.
No.
It's still underground. It's still niche. And for me, I think it's a positive as a person that was coming up with this internet, right? With the internet, and the Facebook and the groups, because the people that like you that have done it for so long are accessible still. Whereas if this was something in the realm of, say, tattooing or something that's already gone full mainstream, I think like the pioneers would not be so accessible. The folks that started it, the folks that really brought it into the new age,
Well, the panel work that really started at the in '92 when the Pinheads became a group.
Yes,
and that's when we really started to share the art with the world. That was a wonderful time, a wonderful evening that happened there. It was magical, and it'll never happen again. So I'm very happy and proud to be there, to be one of the original 14 pinheads.
Yeah, I did hear the story. It was, I think it originated at a letterheads meet, and I think what the Pinstripers kind of just found each other.
Yeah, from what I remember, because I guess there's different stories. The way I remember it was I was walking back in this one room was Dave Hightower working with some young kid, giving him points. And I walked by and said, Pooch, come here. You show us. Well, before you know it, there was 14 guys in that room, 14, 15 guys in that room. And somebody said, this is funny. We're at a letterhead meet and we're all pinstriping. Somebody else yelled out, well, we should call ourselves pinheads. And then... and that's when we started with somebody lettered something and then passed it to somebody else. You work on this. And by the end of the night, there was just panels being passed around that had never been done before.
Yeah.
It's like a jazz group getting together, One person picks in with the guitar, next person hears the note, he slides in, the next person slides in. So that's how that all started. Then the next morning, one of the magazines wanted a picture of us together holding panels, and to make sure they'd get our names correctly, they gave each one of us a name and they saw where we sat in the group. So when I went up, I was number 6. I'm number 6, Pooch, and then they had everything done the right way, and that's how it started, man. It was just awesome. It's something that'll never happen again because it was the first time we're jamming together, a group of people.
Yeah, and now it's the norm at at these panel jams, right? And that's basically
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And you know what? That's kind of one of the main reasons that Jack and I wanted to do this podcast, because we want to know the stories. We want to get these records, of how these things occurred. That way, for the generations to come.
It's absolutely, because we got, I hear all the time customers saying, well, you're doing a dying art. I said, no, I'm not. It's a growing art. I said, boy, there's some new people coming up in the world that just blow me away. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really bubbling, right? It's really like bubbling. It's like a slow simmer.
I have probably over 300 pictures in my phone of lettering and pinstriping, of things that I like to use as reference or influence what I'm doing that day. And a lot of them is all these youngers, well, they're not little kids to me. They are, because I could be their father or grandfather. But there's some hot people out there doing some beautiful work, and they've taken what we started in the 50s and 60s, and they're just going over the top with it. So I'm constantly learning now from the new people, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, and even as a newer person, I still consider myself a rookie. I guess I'm maybe like a notch above a rookie. Personal insight for me, at least. But
Well,
I'll look at some stuff that was coming out of the 80s, and I'm like, they were already doing this. Somebody was already,
we were doing it, but you folks have taken it to a higher level. It's like lowrider paint jobs. Those paint jobs, we were doing those in the 50s and 60s, but they've taken that to the next level or higher. So they're still doing, it's gone full circle in the design of the paintwork, but now with all the leaf and the scrolling coming into it. So again, they've taken something and you're advancing on it. So just like you younger people are doing, you're taking stuff that we've done, but you're really, you're one of the people that I admire your work.
Well, I'm very humbled by you saying that. I appreciate it.
Well, it's beautiful work, man. From the first time I saw your stuff, I went nuts with it, and other people, of course, Jen, Hot Rod Jen, Anthony, Monaco, my buddy Munch, Cassie, how do you say her last name?
Evansich, I believe so. We interviewed her.
Yes, you did. Beth Kearney.
Oh, Beth's amazing. I would like to get her on as well. Yeah, she's really good.
Zach Matthews does beautiful work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I follow all you guys. I take pictures of you guys because it's like, wow, I never thought of doing it that way or adding that little twist in there. And that's important. So we steal from each other. The idea is not to copy it exactly. So like if I'm going to try to copy something you did, which I never get to do that like I want it to be, but I try it exactly how you did it to get that feel for it. But the idea is I don't want my work to look like yours. I want it to look like mine.
Yeah.
But absolutely. You have to learn new things and learn how to twist that and turn that into yours. That's very important.
Yeah, believe it or not, I studied. So Steve Chiseka had like 4 very small clips on YouTube where he was showing his vortex, and I think maybe even the typhoon. And I watched him do these loops, and I watched him go backwards on a loop. Like he'd stop mid loop and go the opposite way, and it just broke my head. I said, how in the world did he do that? So I would doodle it. I would just draw it. Them same 4 stupid videos. They're like 30 seconds long. I don't mean to call them stupid.
Yeah.
They're so short. They're like, he does it so quick. His style is so perfected, right?
Well, I suppose he's an old man. That's all.
But
if you're listening, Steve, haha. We're the same age, though.
Yeah. Well, watching his stuff, but then, and I kind of eventually kind of found my own way, and even watching Kafka stuff, I really like Kafka stuff as well.
Of course.
And then all of the some of the folks that have derived from both of them in the Southwest region, Bugs and there's a
oh God, yeah,
there's a guy.
Loki.
I love his stuff. I absolutely. I mean, I watched.
Loki.
I study
Loki.
his stuff a lot.
Oh God, he blows me away.
There's a fella that nobody really speaks about too much that I really looked at a lot. Was a younger fella, and we might be the same age, but he looks a little younger. Was a guy by the name of Carlitos Alves, and I think maybe there's a chance. I don't know. I don't know their origins, but I think maybe there's a chance they might have worked together at some point. But his stuff was blowing my mind. I was watching what they do, and and I remember trying to explain to my friend Robert Messenger a move that Steve would do, and I remember seeing it so many times that I went to show him, and I said, I think he even goes like sideways with the loop, and I did it, And it was the first time I actually executed that thing that was blowing my mind. And I had to stop for a second. I was like, so I finally got it. It was one of them quick moves that he does. I finally got it. I was very proud of myself for that second.
There's a young man from Russia.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about.
Can't think of his name right now. I see him on Instagram all the time, and on Pinstriper's Garage.
Tim, at Tim or something like that. Alex Tim, I think.
Yeah, I think so. He does some beautiful scrolling, and he's fast.
Oh yeah.
And I contacted him and asked him what he uses, and he has his own brushes made, and he sells them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just ordered two different sizes of his scrolls and two different sizes of his striping brushes. I'm going to try them out.
Nice.
And it wasn't expensive at all, really.
I need to contact them too. There's not a whole lot of, how should I say this? There is variety of striping brushes, but there's not a ton of variety on the hairs. It's either like you can either get synthetic or squirrel. Yeah. And I prefer the Kafkas, which is a blend.
Right.
And I get the perfect resistance with those. It's for me, the only thing I wish they were was long handle. So I think his are long handled.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
And it's really not because I need the length. It's because I feel like a long handled. At one point I had a custom shop scroller, which is no longer the same ones that Custom Shop's making now. I think this was actually made through Mac for Custom Shop. And it was a mixed hair, and it was very similar to the Kafkas, but it had a long black handle with a gold ferrule. And that's the brush that first really got me to where I was able to control it the way I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. So I'm still on the mission to try to find a long handle mixed blend hair brush. I may have to try to find some way to develop them if nobody else does.
Mac brush makes a aluminum. It's a handle that goes on the brush.
I think I've seen laser something or other.
Yeah. Yes. Now I've never seen them in person, but I think it's something that could make you a longer handle.
That makes sense.
So you should check into that.
Yeah. And speaking of scrolling, I wanted to mention your scrolling is some of the most organic scrolling that I've seen in all of pinstriping. And it's beautiful in a sense that it has a natural development to it, but it flows unlike anything else. And I'm curious to know whereabouts you sort of developed that. Like, where did scrolling come into your world with pinstriping?
Oh man, just looking at all of you guys that do scrolling all the time, and I just felt like I need to get a feel of this, and I just started. I did a painting for myself, and had a 3-inch diameter a circle around it. Pocono Pooch. I don't know if you've seen that one, but totally surrounding this 3-foot diameter circle is just scrolling different colors all around the whole side. Very ornate. And it was a good way to loosen up and just get a feeling for using scrollings, because I wasn't doing specific designs for anything.
Yeah.
And I always didn't think my scrolling was that good. So thank you very much.
No, I enjoy it. No, I love it. I love it because it looks like unlike anybody else's. And,
good. That's my idea.
And you have moments where you open the gap and you fill the gap in with either, sometimes it's leaf or another color where it's like split open. But yeah, I dig it. I look at your stuff, but vice versa, man. I'm studying your stuff too. So
well, thank you very much.
So we're all admirers, and especially your lettering. You know, I'm always looking at you. Always, not always, but I see like in the middle of your E's, there's always like a little squiggle line in a lot of your E's, and sometimes in the corner of the beginning of a letter, there's a little squiggle line. I wish I could show you to explain to you what but instead of like just a regular, extender out of the center of an E, it's like a little, almost like a S.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
So I'm always trying to see what you're doing and how you do it and all that. So it's cool,
sometimes these things just come up and happen in your head. I pull out pictures from 15 years ago and I look at it and go, oh my God, I forgot about that. I had that idea that day. I used it that day. Then it disappeared. And years later, you look at it and you go, wow, that looks good. I got to do that again.
Yeah. Have you ever had the situation where you think something looks bad at the moment or not really all that great? And then you go back to it and you're like, that looks awesome.
Yeah. Or the customer walks in and they're like, wow. And
yeah. I had for sure some stuff that I was extremely unhappy with. I did like the color spectrum. It was like gold, blue, and white, right? It was quite regal colors. But I remember just posting it thinking, oh, this is sort of a disaster. And sure enough, Hot Rod Jen's like, that's beautiful. And I thought, I don't like it. But it's Jen, she's amazing.
Well, I tell you people all the time, and new people all the time, tear it apart. Tell yourself what's wrong. Even if, when we make a mistake and let it go, and it's not that we're screwing our customers, but you have to learn to know what you can get away with.
Yeah. And absolutely, yes.
But that comes with time.
Yeah.
But tear your work apart. I tear my work apart constantly. What I find too is if I'm working on a job, I'll take a picture of a piece I did. You could see a lot more everything that's right and wrong in that photograph. So then you could see, because it looks different than you just looking at it there straight on. And it tells you what you need to fix or what looks better, what looks worse.
Yeah, especially spacing wise, right?
Exactly. Many times I've come in and wiped something off because it wasn't centered. It didn't look right. Yeah. Well, I could have gotten away with it and the customer never would have known, but I couldn't. It was just too off for me to like that. The other thing is I know all my friends and other people are going to be looking at it. And, I tear people's work apart. Not to critique them, to see what they're getting away with.
Oh, yeah. I do the same thing.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Tear my stuff apart. Tear Glenn's stuff apart. Tear everybody's stuff apart. And you know what? You're going to find all kinds of little imperfections. But we're doing it by hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll go to car shows, and that's all I look for now. I mean, I love the cars, but I'm always like trying to find the pinstriping.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some stuff that looks very much acceptable, but yeah, you get close to it and like, oh well, they kind of missed that connection, or this is
exactly.
But at first glance, it just looks cool because you get excited. It's like pinstriping it's just cool, and then
I was looking at a car the other day, man. I was admiring the pinstriping, and I'm walking all around it, and I get to the back, and it was done by Unique Signs. That's Mike Fredericks.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent him pictures of it, and he got back to me and goes, I did that about 10 years ago. But it was so cool because a car from New York came into Jersey for this show. Then there was another one had these funky but cool-looking flames on it, and that was by Mr. J. So,
nice.
It's fun to see other people's stuff there.
Yeah.
These shows.
Yeah. And over time, hopefully I'll be able to pinpoint. I'm like, oh, that's that. There's a fella by the name of Mikey Aries, pinstriping Mikey out of, I think, West Palm Beach. He's on the other side of Florida, and we've crossed paths a couple of times. He's a super cool guy. But man, does he do a lot of work around here. So like 90% of the time when I see pinstriping, I'm like, yep, that's Mikey's. That's Mikey's. And it's always cool to see. He does phenomenal work.
Well, once you get known in an area, then, like I always tell my wife is that, we have a new customer tomorrow. That's awesome. Why? Because when you get a new customer, you will get more new customers from that. Because now all their friends are going to see it and go, oh, who did that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andy, we're getting close to the end here. There is one last question that we try to ask everybody. Is if there's one particular story, funny, scary, silly, or memorable story that you'd like to tell the folks that might have popped up in your mind from your travels.
Do we have another 4 hours to do this?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm here. Let's do it.
For me, one of the most exciting things I could say is back in 2017, a good friend of mine, Peter Meyer, he's a world-renowned airbrush artist, and his work is all realism, perfectly realism, but he paints 1-to-1 or larger. So if he was going to paint a picture of your car, it would be the size of your car.
Oh, okay.
So he did a panel 8 feet tall by 5 feet wide, and had a big skull on the top that had to be 2.5, 3 feet tall. And then the bottom was that flipped around upside down. And also at the bottom was a raven skull.
Okay.
Now, Peter's wife, Jan, she names all of his paintings. So this was named Nevermore from Poe.
Oh, okay.
Did Nevermore was a song with a raven, and the only thing the raven ever said in the poem was Nevermore.
Uh-huh.
So this never felt like a completed painting for Peter. So he got in touch with me because we've been friends for quite a few years, and he goes, in the old times, Renaissance times, like let's say Michelangelo did something, a painting, but they would bring in specialists that do the gold leaf work. He goes, I want to do something like the old masters did. We'll get 2 people together to do this. So put this in my studio. He goes, no rush. Keep it for a while. Just stare at it. And first of all, I was a nervous wreck because I was working with Peter Meyer. and Lynn, my wife, goes, Andy, he wouldn't be calling you to collaborate with you if you weren't at his level.
Mm-hmm.
But it still brought me to a much higher level then. I spent 3 months. I created my own alphabet for it. And then I did all the lettering and different leaves, for many different leaves, airbrush work. Did all that on the painting, Nevermore on the top. And there's pictures out there of it. So he's sponsored by DuPont. Now it's Axalta.
Uh-huh.
And they came to his studio. They wanted to find a painting they can bring to SEMA in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And they're looking at everything in there, and he asked them, what's that one that's covered up over there?
Uh-huh.
Because I don't think he'd be interested in that. Well, let's see it. And that was the one we did together.
Yeah.
And they said, that's the one.
Nice.
That's the one we want. So
nice.
We built a box for that. They shipped it to SEMA. They brought us to SEMA, all paid for a whole week. And then when we had our debut was at SEMA.
Mm-hmm.
And on my Facebook page, there's like a 20-minute video of both of us explaining the painting and everything.
Oh, wow.
Funny thing was, there were more people at our group than Joe Leno. What's his name? Leno.
Oh, Jay Leno.
Jay Leno was on at the same time. We had more people by us looking at the reveal of Nevermore. So that was exciting.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And let me tell you something, Andy. You're describing it perfectly because you actually gave me a signed poster.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And it is proudly hanging directly in front of me. So I'm staring at it right now.
That's cool. That's very cool.
I'm curious on the hearts on the side. They look like hearts.
Yes. Peter did those.
Ah, okay. And I'm assuming you did the pinstriping.
All the pinstriping. And what we did, and the I in the bottom,
Uh-huh.
One, I did that in variegated leaf, and then he did his paint work over that. And I looked through two full books of variegated leaf to find one that started in the center and expanded out in all directions.
Ah, okay.
And when I found the right one, that was the one to go on the eye.
Man.
But actually formed all the line work that would be in the back of the of a line of an eye.
Well, it was very well thought out. It's beautiful work, man. I'm yeah. As soon as I got it, I said I got to get this thing framed. Like I was, I was very protective of it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It's. I'm super glad I was able to. For one, I'm extremely glad I was able to meet you. It was just fantastic. It's like a. Honestly, I felt like an immediate connection. With
we
you.
did, man. We did. Actually did.
And it's been awesome, and I'm super glad I was able to get you back or get you on the podcast. Hopefully, we'll get you back later on. We'll check in on you, and just thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you for your art, and thank you for passing on the knowledge.
And thanks for having me here with you. I appreciate it. Had a good time.
No problem, man. You take care, man, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy. You too.
Bye bye.